Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 4. This show just keeps getting more and more interesting. And this Chapter 4 is called Sanctuary, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is the daughter of Ron Howard, who directed Solo, but also has a great career as well. And even though the episode was directed by Ron Howard's daughter, this episode had Dave Filoni's fingerprints all over it. This episode of Mandalorian felt very much like an episode of Clone Wars in the way it was structured, in the way that the story was. And that's not a bad thing in this case. Even though Mandalorian is trying to have its own identity, it works for this episode. And yes, at long last, this is the Gna Carano episode. Finally, Gna Carano, somebody who I've followed since her MMA career many, many years ago in Strike Force, Elite XC. Actually, I think it was Elite XC before Strike Force. It was a long time ago, but big Gna Carano follower for many, many, many years. And she's here in this episode. She's like pretty much the big guest star of this episode. The reason why I'm saying it's like a Clone Wars episode is, you know, it kind of feels more episodic because in this episode we have the Mandalorian going to a foreign planet with these, in this village, right? And it turns out that this village has some problems with some Imperial remnants. Now, one of the things that I really like that Disney has done with the sequel stuff after Return of the Jedi is, realistically speaking, this is a brilliant move, and it makes sense in that we have people who are Imperial sympathizers. We have remnants of the Empire scattered all throughout the galaxy. And I think that works for this show because one Mandalorian, no matter how good he is not going to be able to take on an entire army of Imperial troops. It's just not going to happen. But if you've got sort of the Empire's technology, if you've got Imperial remnants throughout the galaxy, not really united together with one common leader, you know, it really makes it really evens the playing field and can provide some really good storytelling and unique storytelling to this show, which is a much smaller scale show than the big grandiose, you know, Star Wars films. But at the same time, you know, it makes it so that Mando, as we call him now, because we don't know what his real name is, not yet, can still do battle with them. So they have this Imperial Walker they have to deal with, and, you know, total badassery from not only the Walker, but from what Mando does. Now, what I liked about this episode a lot was, first of all, I got to get this out of the way, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Baby Yoda is the most adorable thing. Listen, I'm a grown man. I don't buy plushies. I will buy a Baby Yoda plushie. Don't make fun of me. I know you will in the comment section, but this is the one character whose plushie I will purchase because he is the best. I love Baby Yoda as a mascot of this series. It works. Now, what I was going to tell you about what I liked about the episode was that this episode showed, again, even more so than episode 3, it showed that Mando has a heart. It showed that whoever's under this mask is not a vindictive, evil person whatsoever. And we find out more and more. What I'm liking about The Mandalorian as a show so far is that every episode is like peeling back an orange. And even though we don't know who this guy is, we start to learn more about him. And this is something that can only really be done in a movie type of, in a TV series type of situation. With movies, you've got a limited runtime, whether it be an hour and a half, 2 hours, or 3 hours to tell your story. With The Mandalorian, you've got many episodes to slowly kind of peel back the layers and help us as the audience find out who this guy is. And here we find out some really interesting information about him. We find out that his parents were killed when he was young and that he has not taken off the mask and shown anybody his face since then. Now, he does remove the mask at one point in the movie to eat, but nobody sees him, presumably. And we also find out, and this is not really about him, but we also find out that someone, and this has been hinted at, but now it's been definitively told to us, someone's trying to wipe out Baby Yoda. Someone's trying to kill Baby Yoda, and obviously we're going to find out as the series progresses who's behind this plot, but it really brought back vibes of Attack of the Clones. Now, Attack of the Clones is probably one of the lesser Star Wars films, one of my least favorite ones, but one thing I loved about Attack of the Clones was Obi-Wan Kenobi and that little sort of mystery hunt where he's trying to find Cypher Dyas. He goes to Kamino. He gets to that fight with Jango Fett. That's some of my favorite stuff from the prequels because I always love the whole mystery, like who's behind this plot. And of course, we're not dumb. We know the Emperor, before he was the Emperor. We know Palpatine, Sidious is behind all this. But in Attack of the Clones, I mean, not in this, not in Mandalorian. But it's just cool to see how everything unravels. Like, how did the clones get, started? Same thing here, where we know that Baby Yoda is a bounty at first. We don't know what the end goal is with Baby Yoda, but this episode hints that somebody out there wants him dead. So now, as a result of that, Mando's life is going to be in danger. Mando has to watch his own back as well as protect the child, because they even hinted at in this episode that he wanted to leave the child behind on the village, but shortly after we found out that the child is not safe. He was about to get sniped. Straight up was about to get sniped. And if it wasn't for Gna Carano, he probably would have been. So somebody wants to take out Baby Yoda. Now, there's all kinds of theories going around that it could be Supreme Leader Snoke. It could be, somebody else in the shadows who wants to wipe out Force-sensitive people. All of that could be possible. As far as it being Snoke, though, this show is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So I don't believe the First Order has been... In fact, I know it hasn't really risen yet. So it's too soon to say that. But still, somebody out there is plotting to wipe this baby out, and Mando now has to protect the child from, and not just that, find out who is behind the plot. But I love this episode so much. I think episode 3 is probably still my favorite, but this one really added more to the Mandalorian. There was a little bit of humor in it as well. It wasn't like overly funny Rian Johnson cutesy Last Jedi humor. It was just sort of the way they cut things and sort of the one-liners and the quips. There was only about 2 or 3 of them in the episode. It did not get annoying. The Mandalorian himself is a badass. He meets his match in this episode, because when he meets Gna Carano's character, it's an actual like hand-to-hand combat situation, which we haven't seen too much of here, because the Mandalorian has all these weapons at his disposal. Now we're seeing him fight hand to hand, and it was a treat to watch. So Mandalorian episode 4, still good. I have lots of curiosities going into the future about this series and where it goes, but I can tell you that the Mandalorian is in my opinion, the most interesting Star Wars product out there right now. However, Jedi Fallen Order, dude, I haven't played it yet, but everybody who I talk to is loving this damn game, and I really want to try it out, and I probably will at some point in the near future. But yeah, Jedi Fallen Order sounds really good, but it's crazy how Star Wars is about to release. Think about this for a minute. Star Wars is about to release the 9th and final chapter of the Skywalker saga. The final saga film, Star Wars Episode 9. And people don't even care about it as much as they do a TV show and a video game. At least most people. That is mind-blowing to me. And when I say most people, I mean like Star Wars like fans, not like the casual audience. I think Star Wars fans are digging this stuff more, at least the vocal ones. So obviously Rise of Skywalker will make a ton of money, right? We all know that. But it's kind of scary, because every time there's a new TV spot that comes out, we get more and more confirmations of the Jedi Paxis leaks, and it looks like those may in fact be really, really accurate, because every time something comes out, it seems to fit with that. So either way, though, Mandalorian, look, Jon Favreau continuing to do a great job. The big question is, how can Jon Favreau make a movie like Lion King and then make a show like this? And the whole thing is that Lion King was a paycheck movie, dude. Like, Disney wrote him a fat check and he made the movie. And, you could sit there and criticize him for it, but think about it. Put yourself in his shoes. You're working for Disney. You got some really good benefits. And there's like, hey, make this Lion King reboot. Make it like the original if you want. But we're going to write you this huge check. I mean, I would take it. I'm not going to lie to you about that. I probably would have made a better movie, but I'd take the freaking check, because it probably was a lot of money. I mean, the movie made a lot of money, and Jon Favreau made money off of it himself. But The Mandalorian, this is like Jon Favreau being creative. This is Jon Favreau working with Dave Filoni, who knows how to do Star Wars television. He knows how to produce quality stuff. No, not every episode of Clone Wars was a classic. Obviously, there's a lot of classic ones, but not every episode. Obviously, Rebels, I feel like some of the latter episodes did fall apart, in my opinion. I don't even know what the reason would really be, but Filoni is not perfect, right? But Filoni understands how to produce episodic television more than Favreau, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it seems that way. So Kathy Kennedy putting Jon Favreau and Filoni together, I think, was a good move, and I think that going forward, the series has not delivered a bad episode yet. Obviously, at some point they will, because the law of numbers tells us that, but they are cooking right now, and it's getting more and more interesting, and I'm invested. I am genuinely invested in Star Wars The Mandalorian. So do you agree? Let me know in the comments what you think about this episode. Was it your favorite one? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you down the road.